Hello, my name is Mark Fleming, and I'm a dentist and a transition consultant with Paragon. Today, I'll be talking about how to know if purchasing a practice is right for you. There are a number of practice options available to dentists: practice purchase, practice startup, associateships, public health, and the military, to name a few. You have probably heard many opinions on which of these options are the best. But it is important to keep in mind that not all dentists have the same needs and goals. So the first thing you need to consider are what are your needs and goals. Goals to look at are your financial goals, clinical goals, and quality of life goals. Although clinical and quality of life goals differ from person to person, typically practice ownership gives you the most freedom to achieve these goals, as you get to make the decisions and call the shots. Financial goals are much more straightforward, so let's talk more about the financial impact of these practice options. The best advice I can offer you is to absorb all you can from every source you can find. Then make the decision that best optimizes your career income potential, which is simply how much money you can make during your career. Owning your own practice will typically give you a much higher career income potential. So if you are considering practice ownership, should you purchase a practice or should you start your own practice? Financially, purchasing a practice is the only logical choice, and let me explain why. If you purchase a practice, your career income potential will receive a major jump start because it will put you at least 8 to 10 years ahead of the curve compared to a practice startup. Let's talk about some points that we can all agree upon. Without patients, it is impossible for a dentist to produce income. So without a substantial patient base, a dental practice cannot produce consistent income. The existence of a patient base in a practice startup is unknown. And even if you can establish a patient base in a startup, it typically takes several years for it to be large enough to provide full-time income. When you purchase a practice, the patient base is a known factor. Thus, the potential for income is immediate. What are the advantages of purchasing a practice? The first and most important advantage is that you will immediately have a quality patient base. This is the advantage that puts you 8 to 10 years ahead of the curve. Next, you will have immediate and consistent personal income. Known practice financial track record, immediate credibility in the community. You will typically have an experienced office staff and all office systems already in place. You will have a productive hygiene department, which not only generates additional income, but also through recall exams will add more planned restorative treatment. And the seller can stay on and be your associate. And the seller can also be a mentor. So as you can see, there are many advantages to purchasing a practice. Now let's go through a number of real case histories. The first case is from Alabama in 2004. And the buyer was a new graduate. The buyer purchased the practice for $290,000, and including their closing fees and working capital, had a loan amount of $320,000. The practice had a projected first-year production of $300,000, with a first-year net income, which is after making all of the loan payments, of $194,000. The actual first-year buyer production turned out to be $347,000, and the actual first-year net income after debt service was $217,000. This is a first-year earning rate of over 62%. The earnings rate is simply the percentage of the production that is your take-home income. Compare that to the 25 to 30% rate that a typical associate makes, and you will quickly see the financial advantage to practice ownership. The other thing to note is this is just year one, and these numbers should only get better. Another note about this case is that in the first year, the buyer also replaced 2 rooms of equipment and hired 1 additional staff member. These expenses reduce the first year income, so in reality, the income potential is even higher. The next case is from New York in 2006, and the buyer was a recent graduate. The buyer purchased this practice for $450,000, and after fees and working capital had a bank loan of $490,000. The projected first-year production was $447,000, and the first-year net income after debt service was $262,000. The actual first-year buyer production turned out to be $428,000, and the net income after debt service was $259,000. This yielded another fantastic earnings rate of over 60%. The last case is from Virginia in 2007 and had a more experienced buyer. The purchase price was $560,000 and the loan was for $620,000. The first year projected production was $609,000 and the projected net income was $284,000. The actual production turned out to be $611,000 and the net income after debt service was $272,000. This yielded an earnings rate of 44%. You will notice that the actual net income was slightly less than the projected net income. This was because the buyer purchased a CEREC, replaced one operatory of equipment, and hired 2 additional staff members during the first year. And even with these increased expenses, the buyer came very close to hitting the projected net income. Now I'm sure you have some questions, so let's cover some of the most frequently asked questions. Question 1. Can I produce as much as the projections show I need to produce to achieve the cash flow? Experience confirms that you will produce what we project. But you may have to work a few hours more each week than the seller was working until you get faster. Question number 2. Are practice sales always structured where the seller retires immediately? Not at all. Practice sales can be structured as a walkaway where the seller retires, or a pre-sale where the seller remains with you as your associate. Pre-sales also vary from case to case. Some are structured for the seller to remain with you for a short time, while in others the seller stays with you for years. For a successful transition, the buyer's needs and goals must be matched with the correct practice opportunity and transition structure. Question 3. What if the patients don't stay with the practice after the seller retires? Frankly, unless you're a complete jerk, there is no logical reason for the patients to leave the practice after the seller retires. Consider this. The seller mails a letter to each patient endorsing you. The staff and practice location remains the same. The only difference in the office is you. With the seller no longer available, would not any dentist be new for the patient? So is purchasing a practice right for you? We have talked about the financial benefits, and I think it is obvious that purchasing a practice will allow you a greater income and at the same time to build equity in your practice. Practice ownership also gives you the freedom to make your own decisions as to your work schedule, as well as the freedom to make your clinical choices and practice how you want to. I hope I have answered this question to your satisfaction. But if you still have some doubts, perhaps this information from the American Dental Association will help you decide. According to the 2005-2006 ADA Success Seminar, the answer to the question, why buy a practice, is because you will experience $200,000 to $500,000 more income in your first 5 years of practice. Paragon Dental Practice Transitions is a national network of many individuals who play a significant role in each transition. Dentists, attorneys, accountants, and healthcare administrators. We have consultants like myself in your local area ready to help you with your practice search. Contact Paragon today and schedule your complimentary consultation. No obligation, just an extremely worthwhile education. For more information, visit our website at www.paragon.us.com or contact us by email at info@paragon.us.com or toll free at 866-898-1867.